Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of the Australian newspaper. Greg, great to see you, particularly when there's so much here to discuss. It's pretty obvious this new defence strategy is about defending us and maybe our friends from China. Is that the right focus?
Well, yes, it is, Andrew. And so I'm going to be critical of the government, but let me acknowledge their achievements. They're going to be at least as good as the coalition government. They're going to maintain the defence spending trajectory of the last government. They're going to reform the army in a way which is sensible, and all their rhetoric and everything they say is good. Having said that, Andrew, this was a very, very disappointing document. The $19 billion, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors about this stuff. The $19 billion is neither new money nor extra money. It will be within the existing defence envelope. So they'll either be reprioritising some money. They say they're going to respend, cancel $8 billion worth of programs and respend that on higher priorities, or they'll simply be re-announcing stuff that's been announced 500,000 times already, like they did with the HIMARS and the precision missiles. The Army, so-called long-range missiles up to 500 kilometres, that's good for coastal defence, better than having them running around in tanks in Western Queensland, but it's really nothing of any consequence strategically. Now, after billions of dollars, we have exactly 3 modern warships in our entire surface fleet, the 3 air warfare destroyers. We were all expecting we were going to get a fleet of corvettes and more air warfare destroyers and maybe something else, and instead they've announced another review into the Navy. I mean, you've got to admire the defence establishment. It establishes its culture of doing nothing, no matter who's in government. And then the final thing, Andrew, to give you a chuckle and a smile, they've sensibly cut down the number of infantry fighting vehicles, which weigh 40 tonnes or something and can't get over most bridges and will never be deployed. But we're keeping our tank order. So we're going to spend billions of dollars on tanks. We're going to get which weigh half as much again as the infantry fighting vehicles. Meanwhile, we've only got 3 surface warships that would count as modern warships. We've got far fewer missile launch cells in our surface fleet than we had 15 years ago. And we're going to waste this insane money on tanks. The Army has once again defeated the government. And the real victor here is the sloth and paralysis of the Australian defence establishment.
Yeah, but Greg, a proper army has got to have tanks. We need those tanks. I mean, it's just, honestly, Greg, I just cannot believe they're given a report that says, really, you're running out of time. China is the big threat. We're nowhere near ready. We've got all the wrong equipment. We're just focused in the wrong way. It's like we're aiming at the threat coming from over there when it's actually coming from here. Got to change everything, and essentially no new money to do the job. I mean, what on earth is going on?
Well, you're dead right, Andrew. It's not very often I agree with Hugh White, but he made a remark today. He said, Penny Wong talked a lot about building deterrence in her National Press Club speech. There is absolutely nothing in today's document which would deter China in Taiwan or anywhere else, including in relation to Australia. We're going to continue with Hunter frigates for the moment for at least another 3 months. I mean, they say this report on the surface fleet will come in the 3rd quarter, so that could be as late as September. The Albanese government could be more than half over before we make a single decision about a surface combatant. There's nothing there about the Air Force. We were expecting another squadron of Joint Strike Fighters because they're modern 5th generation aircraft. Nothing there about that. So we've got about 100 fast jets. That's what we've always had. That's what the defence establishment wants us to have. And are we going to have any more because we face the most dangerous circumstances since World War II? Not a chance. So, defence has once more established its dominance over government. Richard Marles' first big mistake was to reappoint the Chief of the Defence Force and the Head of the Defence Department. The guys who had delivered us nothing over the last decade are going to deliver us nothing in the decade going forward.
Well, Steve Smith, as Defence Minister, I think had no major acquisitions under his watch. He was more interested in, reviews into the culture at Duntroon and things like that, and whether, women were getting a fair shake. I mean, seriously, mate, I don't understand what's going on. Is it that they're, just hyping a threat they don't really believe in? Is it because we've run out of money? Is it because they're scared of offending China? What on earth is going on?
I don't blame Smith and Houston here. I think they, and this is only the public version of the report, and I think everything they said indicated that they knew what the threat was. But I think a couple of things have happened. First of all, there's a sense that to do anything serious is very expensive. Second of all, our entire defence establishment is basically the greatest pacifist organisation in the history of Australia, and it believes at the core of its being that the Americans will always be there to take care of us and that we can't do anything very substantial for ourselves if we're faced with a threat from a big superpower like China. Whereas in reality, we're the 13th richest country in the world. We have more than enough resources to produce a highly potent asymmetric capability which could inflict terrible damage on any aggressor, including China. We don't want these, puny little army missiles that go 300 kilometres. We want long-range, ground-launched, Tomahawk-type missiles that go 2,000 kilometres. We want lots and lots of missile trucks, be they aeroplanes or ships, which can take the missiles out 1,000 kilometres from our shore and then fire them with another 2,000 kilometre range after that. Everybody knows what we need. The DSR is like a very well-written, good op-ed, but it's a bit above, it should be a bit above the pay grade of the op-ed to determine the Australian defence strategy. And more than anything, you want the Nike philosophy, just do it. Don't give me another review. I have to say, Andrew, I'm a pretty optimistic soul, but I nearly wept when I heard them announce that, guess what? We have decided, drum roll, on another review into the state of the surface fleet.
Mate,
and we'll get, if we're lucky, we'll get just exactly what we wanted.
Greg Sheridan,
if we're lucky, the review will give us what we
fight with you. I wish I could pick a fight with you and say, Greg, you're a hopeless pessimist. You're completely wrong. Unfortunately, you are not. Greg Sheridan, thank you for your time.